Hi, it's Katrina! New Zealand sea monster. Found on Pukahina Beach in the Bay of Plenty, the strange marine creature had a very large head and exposed pointed teeth with rudimentary flippers and measured almost 30 feet in length. With its mangled, decomposing body and its missing eyes, onlookers wondered if it was a prehistoric creature or a prank. It's basically a marine blobster, which is a large carcass that is so badly decomposed that researchers are not able to identify the species. After seeing the video of the bizarre creature, some people believed it could be a giant moray eel or even a saltwater crocodile, but a local mammal expert believes it is the carcass of an orca due to its distinct flipper. It makes sense. Killer whales are one of the most mobile animals of the ocean, inhabiting all the way from the polar regions to the equator. But that doesn't mean that they are well loved the world over. Some fishermen in Alaska see the whales as competition, eating the fish that they would rather catch and sell. Shockingly, some fishermen have been known to shoot killer whales to keep their fish stocks full and profitable. As for the carcass found in New Zealand, its huge teeth and badly decomposing body are what make it so difficult to identify. Still, with barely enough material left to make an identification, the mystery of this sea creature will most likely never be solved. Shark becomes bait. When Australian scientists tagged a 9-foot great white shark to study her movements, they didn't expect the device to wash ashore 4 months later with no sign of the shark. The biggest mystery is what happened to it. A healthy female great white shark named Alpha was tagged in Australian waters to investigate her movement along the Australian coast. Recorded by a filmmaker for the Smithsonian Channel, what seemed to be an average scientific study turned out to stir up a mystery. After consulting the data from the tag after it washed up on the coast about 2.5 miles from where it was originally attached to the shark, scientists found information that showed the device moving in a strange manner. Apparently, it experienced a rapid plunge in depth, descending to around 1,902 feet below the surface. The tag also recorded a temperature rise from 46 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, where it remained for 8 days. But what exactly does this mean? Something in the deep must have eaten her. Researchers believe the only explanation for the strange temperature change and rapid plunge below to the depth of the ocean is that the shark was eaten by another animal and the tag ended up in its digestive system. But considering the shark was 9 feet long, scientists are still scratching their heads at what could have eaten a shark that big. As scientists continue to study the migration of larger great whites in the area, they believe Alpha may have been eaten by another, bigger great white. But that would mean that the shark would have had to be a lot larger than Alpha, possibly spanning 16 feet and weighing 2 tons, at least. Some believe that it's also possible that another shark bit Alpha, taking the tag with it. Either way, it just shows that these massive animals still remain somewhat of a mystery to scientists, and it still begs the question as to what really happened to Alpha the shark. The loneliest whale in the world. In the northern Pacific Ocean, a strange sound was captured by hydrophones in 1989 by SOSUS, a software used by the Navy to capture sounds from enemy submarines. What they discovered was a whale song, but not a song heard by any whale group. This unique whale has a particularly unique vocalization, but even though some people have heard it, no one has ever seen it. Nicknamed the loneliest whale in the world, this whale has a signal that differs from most other whales. The BBC says that blue whales vocalize on a frequency from around 10 to 40 hertz, fin whales at about 20 hertz, but this particular whale does so on a different frequency of 52 hertz. So far, it has been the only one heard at that frequency, earning it the nickname of the loneliest whale, because perhaps it is the only one of its kind. If it vocalizes at a completely different frequency than other whales, can other whales hear it? Does it maybe have some sort of adaptation or disability that causes its song to be higher than any other whale? A team of scientists led by marine mammal researcher Bill Watkins became interested in trying to find the whale so they could study it further, using sonar buoys that had been repurposed from the United States Navy to zone in on its signal. They also sent out visual surveyors, trying to locate the whale without much luck. Watkins searched for 12 years, and every season the microphones would pick up the lonely sound made by the same whale year after year. He and his team wrote that it is perhaps difficult to accept that if this was a whale, that there could have been only one of this kind in this large oceanic expanse. Yet in spite of comprehensive, careful monitoring year-round, Only one call with these characteristics has been found anywhere, and there has been only one source each season. A documentary filmmaker decided to set out on this quest and contacted scientists to assist him. After setting out on the expedition, they were determined to find the whale using multiple underwater microphones to triangulate its location. Until they were able to locate the whale and study it further, scientists continued to hypothesize about its strange call and why it is so different from any other whales on Earth. It is no easy mission trying to find one particular whale in the entire ocean. Calls at this type of frequency can travel hundreds of miles from their source, and other scientists think that perhaps this whale has developed some type of dialect or just has its own unique song that makes it stick out as an individual. It's hard to really know if a whale is lonely or not, but this animal's singing has caught our attention. Furry Russian sea creature. When a bizarre creature washed up on a Russian shore, spectators were rightfully curious about its strange beak and fur. Was it a hairy dolphin? Some deformed, extinct, defrosted mammoth? You'd think it would be easy to tell the difference, but in this case, it's very hard to say. The thing was basically a sea monster. When the animal was found, it was partially eaten and measured twice the length of a human, but its fur and long beak are what really caught everyone's attention. The extended nose led some to believe that it was possibly a Ganges river dolphin, but others believe that the freshwater dolphin could not have made it all the way from India to Russia and survive in the marine habitat there. The Ganges river dolphin also does not have fur on its body like the remains of this strange animal. Actually, no dolphin has fur. So where did this mutant come from? A professor of marine biology at Essex University hypothesized that the hair-like covering on the creature could possibly have been some kind of algae. But even more interesting, he also suggested it could possibly be an ancient species that had been preserved in permafrost all of this time. Perhaps even a woolly mammoth. So could warming temperatures have defrosted the animal, only for it to wash up on Russian shores? Its matted coat of fur and fish-like tail do not seem to resemble anything anyone has ever seen before, and with some claiming it as a giant mutant creature, this decayed animal and its origins still remain a bizarre mystery. The blobfish. The poor blobfish will not be winning any beauty contests anytime soon. A member of the family known as fathead sculpins, other unattractive fish, the blobfish is normally found in an area between Australia and New Zealand. Known for living in cold, dark, and empty locations, the blobfish looks normal when spotted swimming in their usual habitat 4,000 feet below the water's surface. But when they are pulled from the ocean's environment, they get their characteristic gelatinous, bloated appearance that has earned them the reputation of being the ugliest fish in the world. Possibly even the ugliest animal in the world. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. A deep-diving fish, the blobfish has a strange anatomy with soft bones that are less prone to cracking, allowing them to deal with the incredible pressure at the depths they swim in. With a minimal built-in structural support within their bodies, the deep-sea pressure holds everything together. But when they are hauled to the surface and experience a rapid pressure drop, their anatomy expands and falls into a gooey mess. Much about the biology of the blobfish is still up for debate because most of the information scientists know about them comes from dead specimens. Not much is known about their biology, and because only 1% of blobfish eggs make it to adulthood, there is still much to be learned about this decidedly unattractive fish. Hairy sea monsters. What is it with these mysterious hairy blobs washing up on beaches? A recent discovery in the Philippines of a decaying hairy blob the size of a truck is one of the most bizarre discoveries of recent years. The 20-foot-long gray and white carcass washed ashore on the beach, bringing with it the pungent smell of a rotting corpse. Weighing in at 4,000 pounds, the creature remained a mystery. Its strange appearance with hair-like strands extending from the body is explained by some scientists as decomposed muscle fibers. But that doesn't necessarily make it any less gross. Hope you aren't eating lunch right now. Interestingly enough, it is not the only strange creature to wash up on a beach in recent years. Reports of another mysterious carcass that washed up on an Indonesian island drew attention from locals who saw the dramatic video of the bloody carcass in shallow water. After measuring the animal and realizing it was 49 feet long, locals who originally believed it was a squid were soon left wondering what it could be. Most squid usually only measure up to 16 feet and don't have bones. This bizarre bloody beast was mangled and bloated, with part of its skeleton protruding from its skin. And although those who were fascinated by the find couldn't wait to snap a selfie, others steered clear of the creature, not only to avoid its awful rotting smell, but I guess to stave off any nightmares of these lurking creatures from beyond the deep. Megalodon in the Mariana Trench? While you might think that the only way you'll see the prehistoric megalodon shark is in a Hollywood blockbuster, could it be possible that sharks 3 times the size of great whites still exist? Measuring up to 60 feet long, they were the largest sharks ever and some of the largest marine predators. Megalodons went extinct about 2.6 million years ago due to global cooling and increased competition for food. White sharks and killer whales were also evolving and were faster and ate less than megalodons. But some still believe the megalodon could still be lurking in the depths of the ocean, perhaps hiding in the mysterious Mariana Trench. There are a handful of sightings and stories to suggest that the megalodon might be alive. In the 1960s, a massive 55-foot fishing boat reported that an enormous shark the size of their boat, or maybe even bigger, passed by as they were anchored. The captain was an experienced seaman and said that he knew the difference between a shark and a whale, and that it was most definitely a huge shark. Another fishing crew in Australia refused to go back out onto the water in 1918. They said that they were bringing in their fishing nets when they were attacked by a huge white shark monster. It had taken their catch and ruined their gear. The fishermen also had many years of experience on the ocean, but said the shark was between 114 feet and 295 feet long. It was just too much for them. An Australian naturalist took down their story, but it seemed a bit extreme. A shark hundreds of feet long? How is that even possible? Another argument is the shark teeth found by the HMS Challenger. In 1875, the deep-sea expedition brought up megalodon teeth dating back about 10,000 years ago. If they were dated properly, it means that the megalodon went extinct much more recently than we previously thought, and early humans might have coexisted with them and passed down stories. The best place people think the shark is hiding is in the Mariana Trench. It wouldn't be particularly shocking, considering the Mariana Trench is not only the deepest part of the ocean, but it is also one of the most unexplored areas on Earth. But is it possible that a prehistoric creature could still be lurking there? The movie The Meg posits that there is some sort of sub-ecosystem where the shark has been able to thrive, but mainstream science says there is no way. There is no food down there for it, and no other shark is known to go that deep. But there is still a lot about sharks and their behavior that we don't know, even with the technology that we have. Other large marine animals would have telltale bite marks on them, and their huge mega teeth would continue to litter the ocean floors in the tens of thousands if they were still swimming around. Hans Sues, curator of vertebrate paleobiology at the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of Natural History in Washington, says that with everything we know about the fossil record and with the advanced sensing technology we have, we would know if they were there. What do you think? Could this predator still be out there? Let me know in the comments below. Big Fin Squid. Workers on an oil rig for the Shell company unwittingly captured video of the elusive Big Fin Squid in 2013. One of the ocean's more mysterious creatures, not much is known about these squid because not many of them have ever been captured on video. With fins that are up to 90% of the length of the body and ridiculously long arms, the squid have strange movements, including holding their arms at 90-degree angles from their bodies, like some sort of weird alien. Discovered in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, the creature was filmed at nearly 1,000 feet below the ocean's surface. Stretching some 26 feet long with elbow tentacles and pulsating fins, this ancient underwater sea creature is recorded as far back to the early 1900s off the Azores. So far, only juvenile specimens have been captured, so the long-armed squid isn't definitively classified. With only brief glimpses through grainy camera footage, big fin squids are still much of an enigma. But with its enormously long arms and tentacles that are the same length and identical to one another, a unique feature among squid species, this elusive creature is one that remains shrouded in mystery. Tiger. Cynthia Lee Gamble, an experienced tiger handler who lived in Danforth Township, Minnesota, unexpectedly lost her life to one of her big cats in 2006. The 52-year-old woman's remains were discovered in an enclosure on her property where a 500-pound Bengal tiger had mauled her to death. Gamble had kept tigers for over a decade with no issues, according to Pine County Sheriff Mark Mansavage, A friend went to visit her and found her body, and the local community was left heartbroken, especially for Gamble's 14-year-old son, Garrett. It appeared as if the sliding door to a tiger enclosure was left open, and the animal attacked her more or less without warning. The tragedy was completely unforeseen, especially given Gamble's many years of experience with big cats, with her animals even appearing on NBC's Today Show and in the major movie Vertical Limit. Simply put, if anyone was qualified to handle tigers, it was her. This unfortunate incident reminds us that no matter how accustomed someone is to interacting with wild animals, at the end of the day, they will still behave according to instinct. Python. A 31-year-old Hampshire, England man named Dan Brandon learned the hard way that it is actually possible to love someone to death when in August 2018, his 8-foot-long African rock python, ironically named Tiny, attacked him. Brandon's mother found him unconscious on his bedroom floor with the snake nearby, and it was unfortunately too late to save him. She had heard a loud thud coming from her son's room earlier that day, but assumed he had dropped something. Brandon was an experienced snake handler who never had problems with Tiny before the unfortunate tragedy. The coroner concluded that he died from constriction and that the snake probably coiled itself around his neck and squeezed him, possibly out of affection. Although Tiny didn't eat the man, there are many instances of pythons devouring their victims. In June 2018, Indonesian authorities reported that a 23-foot-long giant python killed a 54-year-old woman named Watiba and swallowed her whole. She had gone missing days earlier while tending to her vegetable garden, with just her sandals and machete turning up the following day. Local residents found a strangely bloated python and killed it to find out what was inside its stomach. Gruesome footage of villagers cutting the snake open and discovering Watiba intact went viral, sparking widespread shock and horror across the internet. Even if snakes have feelings and don't want to eat you, a hug from an 8-foot python is just not a good idea. Wolf dogs. Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania resident Sandra L. Paiovison was extremely devoted to the 9 wolf dogs she spent 10 years of her life raising since they were cubs. That all changed in July 2006, when the 50-year-old woman's body was discovered at her home in Salem Township, inside an enclosure where she kept the canine hybrids. Sandra's wolf dogs had turned on her and mauled her to death, an autopsy determined, and the coroner ruled multiple soft tissue injuries as her official cause of death. They may have been more wolf than dog, and had most likely become a pack amongst themselves, and she was not included. It sounds crazy that someone would keep a pet with wild DNA and not expect something like this to happen, but Paiovison's 9 wolf dogs were just a handful of the thousands that are known to exist. There are also varying definitions of what a wolf dog even is. Some people argue that wolves and dogs are essentially the same animal since they are so genetically similar. Others think of them as a direct first-generation product of dogs mating with wolves. But there is an actual wolf dog breed, which originated from dogs and wolves breeding, but goes back several generations. We do not breed wolves to dogs, explained John Davis, vice president of the United States American Wolfdog Association, who spoke with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette following Paiovison's death. We breed American wolf dogs to American wolf dogs. We raise dogs. Davis shunned any negative media coverage of Paiovison's death, pointing out that attacks are rare. Although the woman was not a member of the organization, her wolf dogs were not registered, and she did not have the necessary license from the Pennsylvania Game Commission to own the hybrids. Curiously, the agency knew Paiovison had the animals, but did not take action because she did have state dog licenses, and it's difficult to prove whether a canine is a dog or a wolf. Over the course of several decades, police visited the woman's house numerous times in response to complaints of noise and odors, but never charged her with any crimes. In the words of Westmoreland County Humane Officer Elaine Gower, she was pretty much on guard with me because she knew that I knew that this wasn't a great situation. Turned out very badly for her. Pigs. In 2012, a 69-year-old farmer named Terry Vance Garner went outside to feed the pigs at his rural Coos County, Oregon property and never returned. His family later found his dentures and body parts in the pig's enclosure. Although the man's cause of death seems obvious, considering the circumstances, prosecutors were not quick to rule out foul play or a medical emergency, such as a heart attack, that may have caused him to collapse. They also wondered if Garner's pigs deliberately knocked him over while he fed them, especially considering that one of the animals had displayed aggression to the farmer on at least one previous occasion. For all we know, it was a horrific accident, but it's so doggone weird that we have to look at all possibilities, District Attorney Paul Frazier told the press while announcing plans to have a forensic anthropologist examine Garner's remains. Domestic pigs are typically non-aggressive, according to John Killefer, head of the Animal and Rangeland Sciences Department at Oregon State University, but there is some degree of danger associated with any animal. Moreover, Garner's pigs were much bigger than average, tipping the scales at over 700 pounds, begging the question of whether their size played a role in the tragedy. Humphrey the Hippo. After ignoring repeated warnings that his pet hippopotamus Humphrey was a dangerous wild animal who could never truly be tamed, Marius Els, a South African farmer and army major, was found dead, submerged and mutilated in a river. His pet hippo had bitten him to death. The 40-year-old man had purchased Humphrey when he was just 5 months old, after he became too big for the family who originally took him in after rescuing him from the very river his deceased owner was found in. Over the years that Humphrey spent on Els' 400-acre farm, he became like a son to the man. The pair swam together, and there are even photos of Els fearlessly riding the 1.3-ton animal. But Humphrey was far from harmless. He had an established history of breaking out of his enclosure, chasing people, and killing livestock. Even Els' wife was uncomfortable with keeping a hippo as a pet, but this did not stop the man from doing what he wanted. "There's a relationship between me and Humphrey, and that's what some people don't understand," Els said months before his death. "They think you can only have a relationship with dogs, cats, and domestic animals, but I have a relationship with the most dangerous animal in Africa." It is indeed true that hippos are responsible for more human deaths than lions, elephants, leopards, buffalo, and rhinos combined. As it turns out, Els learned the hard way that he was no exception to this statistic, despite believing that he had a special connection with Humphrey. Cats. In July 2010, humane officials were given the gruesome task of removing a dozen cats from an Albion, Pennsylvania home, where a 74-year-old former teacher named Herbert Walden and his 94-year-old mother Jane were found dead. Enough time had passed, over a week, authorities believed, for the cats to become desperate for food and start eating the elderly gentleman's foot. Walden likely died from a heart attack, according to the Erie County Deputy Coroner Korak Tiemann, the Morning Call reported. Jane, who relied on him for care, probably succumbed to dehydration following her son's death because she was unable to fetch her own water. By the sounds of things, the Waldens' living situation was unhealthy to begin with. Their home lacked running water and was strewn with garbage stacked nearly to the ceiling. With no usable toilet, the pair went to the bathroom in buckets and transferred the contents into containers which lined their hallway. And in addition to the 12 live cats that the authorities rescued, they found a dead dog and 4 dead cats. Spiders, bugs, and lizards. This story is somewhat of an internet/urban legend, claiming that residents of an apartment building in Dortmund, Germany, noticed an unbearable stench coming from a neighbor's unit and summoned police to the scene. What the authorities supposedly encountered was a nightmare. The dead body of the apartment's occupant, Mark Vogel, had been gnawed on by hundreds of spiders, several snakes, thousands of termites, and a gecko. The 30-year-old man who kept a practical zoo in his home was fatally bitten by his black widow spider, Bettina, the story says. "It was like a horror movie," a police spokesperson is quoted as saying. "His corpse was over the sofa. Giant webs draped him. Spiders were all over him. They were coming out of his nose and his mouth." The spokesperson's description only got more horrifying from there. Larger pieces of flesh torn off by the lizards were scooped up and taken back to the webs of tarantulas and other bird-eating spiders, he continued. This is definitely a great story for Halloween. Gabby Bayer, a spider expert and animal cruelty officer, reportedly said that the creatures, which included several poison frogs, should never be allowed in a private home. Vogel allowed reptiles to freely roam the residence, news reports claimed, and his spiders escaped their cages following his death when their heating units exploded. This is arguably the most gruesome story, maybe, but it also holds the distinction of being of questionable credibility. At some point, the story caught the attention of ABC Australia's Media Watch, which published an article showing that the story had been published numerous times over the years, including in 2004, 2007, and 2011. Despite this, the story remains as popular and believed as ever. Teddy the Black Bear. Ross Township, Pennsylvania resident Kelly Ann Waltz loved the animals she kept in her hilltop menagerie, which included a tiger, mountain lion, and a 350-pound black bear named Teddy. Get it? Lions, tigers, and bears. But the animals didn't necessarily love her back, as the 37-year-old woman learned the hard way in October 2009, when she went to clean Teddy's cage and he mauled her to death. Kelly's husband, Mark Waltz, had kept animals for years as an exotic pet dealer at the couple's home in the Poconos Mountains region. Nothing out of the ordinary indicated that Kelly might be in danger when she entered the black bear's 15 by 15-foot steel and concrete cage to clean it. Unfortunately, a shovelful of dog food wasn't enough to distract Teddy that day, when for reasons none of us will ever fully understand, he turned on his owner. Kelly's children and her neighbor's kids witnessed the horrifying attack and scrambled for help. By the time someone shot Teddy dead, it was too late to save her. No matter how comfortable someone is with their wild pet, it's customary for owners to use two-section cages that enable them to isolate the animal and safely clean the enclosure. Tim Conway of the Pennsylvania Game Commission told CBS that why this woman chose to go in the same area that the bear was in is beyond me. It's a fatal mistake. Monitor lizards. When Ronald Huff of Newark, Delaware didn't show up for work one day in 2002, police conducted a welfare check. What they found inside Huff's home was nothing short of horrifying. The man's corpse, propped upright against a door, being devoured by his 7 Nile monitor lizards. The 6-foot-long creatures were covered in their owner's blood and had consumed his face, hands, and some of his internal organs. A week or two before Huff died, one of the monitor lizards bit him, causing a staph infection. In a 2018 interview with The Sun, Huff's former neighbor, Jeff Wildonger, explained that the man allowed the reptiles to roam his apartment freely. Although the cause of Huff's death was ruled inconclusive, Wildonger believes that he must have had a fever from his staph infection and sat down near the front door, one of the only cool places in his home, which he kept at a high temperature for his pets. His cheeks had been eaten off and his molars were where his ears should be, said Wildonger, who caught a glimpse of the traumatizing scene. As officers attempted to confront the scene, the venomous flesh-eating reptiles hissed at them. Some of the lizards were relocated to zoos, while the more aggressive ones were euthanized. Travis the chimp. Sometimes you just have to wonder what people are thinking. Why do you want a chimp as a pet? They are incredibly smart and loving, but they are also strong and wild and don't really belong in a house. Unfortunately for a woman named Charla Nash, her best friend's chimp Travis turned on her and attacked her. Travis was actually an animal actor and had appeared in TV shows and commercials. He was raised by hand at what is now the Missouri Chimpanzee Sanctuary and became well known in the town. He had been socialized around humans since birth, and while he did like to play and wrestle, he always seemed to know when to stop. Sandra Harold had raised the chimp herself, considering him as her adopted son, but was having trouble one day in 2009. Travis had gone on a tirade and had escaped the house. Charla came over to help, and things got completely out of hand. She and the chimp knew each other, but she had changed her hairstyle, which may have confused Travis. Next thing, he was attacking her, biting her face and hands. Sandra started hitting him with a shovel to get him to stop, and he turned and got angrier. She called the police, who at first thought it was a hoax, but you can actually hear the screaming in the background. Sandra screams, "He's eating her!" Charla suffered horrendous injuries, but medical personnel had to wait in case they got attacked as well. Police finally arrived, and Travis attacked the vehicle, smashing the windows and opened the passenger door, where a police officer shot him several times. He died, and the story became international news. Charla had huge medical bills and tried experimental face transplant surgery, but was very afraid to show herself in public. She sued her friend for $50 million. Oldest ever Viking dwelling. Earlier this year, experts revealed the existence of 2 Viking-age longhouses in eastern Iceland, or what's left of them. One predates the previous earliest known human arrivals to the region by over 70 years. They were accidentally discovered in 2003, but they were not excavated until 2015. One structure dates back to around 800 AD, and the other to sometime between 869 and 873 AD. Yet, according to 12th century literature, Iceland's first human inhabitants arrived at the very earliest in 870 AD. According to the Book of Settlements, a man named Ingolfur Arnarsson became Iceland's first settler in 874 AD, when he and his wife traveled to what is now Reykjavik. Archaeologist Bjarni Einarsson, who was the first to excavate the site, explained that scholars seem reluctant to study Iceland's human history beyond accepting Arnarsson as the first official arrival, and he cited the settlement, called Stud, as proof that the legend might not be true. The longhouses are also impressive for other reasons. Measuring 103 feet long, the bigger of the two structures constitutes one of the largest longhouses ever discovered in Iceland. It's also one of the country's most archaeologically rich dwellings of its type, Einarsson told Life Science, bearing artifacts such as Roman and Middle Eastern coins, jewelry including rings, glass beads, and pieces of bent and cut silver that were used as currency, called hacksilver. Einarsson explained that the smaller, treasure-filled longhouse was certainly a chieftain's house. It was built within the ruins of a larger 131-foot-long building, which he believes a Norwegian chief operated as a seasonal hunting camp. Intermittently used structures like this, which are conspicuously lacking in domestic animal remains, likely pave the way toward permanent settlement. A shipwreck frozen in time. British explorer and naval officer Sir John Franklin took 2 ships on an ill-fated 1845 expedition to find the Northwest Passage, a sea route above North America that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The HMS Terror and the HMS Erebus and his 133-man crew vanished without a trace, and over 100 subsequent search missions failed to find any evidence of them. But finally, in 2014 and 2016, the missing ships were found. Last year, Parks Canada archaeologists used remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, to inspect the HMS Terror shipwreck, located off King William Island in Canada's far north. Over a series of 7 dives, the team discovered that the capsized vessel's interior is surprisingly intact. "We were able to explore 20 cabins and compartments going from room to room," lead archaeologist Ryan Harris told National Geographic. "The doors were all eerily wide open." Even more shocking, the shelves were still stocked with dinnerware and glasses, beds and desks were still in place, and scientific instruments were still in their cases, indicating that preserved remains of journals, photographs, documents, clothing, and other evidence may be present within the sunken ship. Researchers hope that by further exploring the shipwrecks, they will find clues to help them solve the remaining mysteries about the failed expedition, including how and where the crew members perished after abandoning their stranded vessels and setting out on foot, only to never be seen or heard from again. 4,400-year-old tomb. In late 2018, a team of Egyptian archaeologists discovered the tomb of a priest at Saqqara, a necropolis west of modern-day Cairo. The high-status burial is estimated to be 4,400 years old, and it was amazingly found untouched by looters or anyone else. Found in a royal cemetery 16 feet underground, the priest Watier's vividly decorated tomb is one of a kind in the last decades, in the words of Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, Mustafa Waziri. The burial chamber's colors remain intact, even after so long. Thanks to the drawings, inscriptions, and carvings, archaeologists were able to piece together the story of this powerful man and his family. Watier served King Nefertari during ancient Egypt's Old Kingdom's 5th dynasty. Inscriptions within his rock-cut tomb list his numerous titles, including Royal Purification Priest, Royal Supervisor, and Inspector of the Sacred Boat. Reliefs throughout the structure depict Watier himself, as well as his wife, Weret Ta, and his mother, Merit Min. The artwork shows everyday activities such as hunting, sailing, making pottery, and leaving offerings. An unusually diverse variety of statues fill the burial chamber, many of Watier and his relatives. The sheer amount of statues and variety is very rare. So far, the team has only uncovered one area, but there are at least 4 more unopened shafts that could lead to more hidden treasures, and possibly even a coffin or a sarcophagus, which has not been found yet. Spanish Stonehenge. Nicknamed the Spanish Stonehenge, the dolmen of Guadalpiral is a prehistoric circular arrangement of 140 boulders, some standing nearly 6.5 feet tall. After spending over a half-century underwater, the Stonehenge reappeared in 2019. The ancient megalithic monuments, erected between 4,000 and 7,000 years ago near the city of Cáceres, Spain, were submerged in 1963, following the construction of the Valdecañas Reservoir. They became visible last year when a severe drought decreased water levels. In an interview with Atlas Obscura, local resident Angel Castaño explained, "All my life people had told me about the dolmen. I had seen parts of it peeking out from the water before, but this is the first time I've seen it in full. It's spectacular because you can appreciate the entire complex for the first time in decades." When news broke of the Spanish Stonehenge's reappearance, a local association started a Change.org petition urging local authorities to preserve the dolmen, which are made from highly porous granite and are therefore fragile against the elements, including water. Following their rediscovery, Smithsonian Magazine reported that the megaliths bear signs of erosion, and some have fallen over or started cracking. "If we don't act now, it could be too late," Castaño warned the local. In September of this year, the Olive Press reported that the petition had reached nearly 50,000 signatures, but gave no word on how Spain's Ministry of Culture plans to respond to the pleas to save the dolmen of Guadalpiral. 400-year-old shipwreck. In September 2018, archaeologists found what they called the discovery of a decade and the most important find of all time for Portugal, an astonishingly intact 400-year-old shipwreck off the coast of Cascais near Lisbon. The vessel, which sank sometime between 1575 and 1625 during the height of Portugal's spice trade with Asia, was likely returning from India when catastrophe struck. George Fryer, the project's director, told Reuters that the well-preserved wreck was found 40 feet underwater. It was discovered near the mouth of the Tagus River, a known hotspot for shipwrecks, as part of a decade-long archaeological project sponsored by the Cascais government, the Portuguese government and navy, and Nova University in Lisbon. Along with the sunken vessel were numerous valuable artifacts, including late 16th and early 17th century Chinese porcelain, bronze artillery pieces, and cowrie shells. Paisley Abbey tunnel mystery solved. Throughout the summer of 2019, a team of archaeologists worked to finish excavating a 14th century tunnel known as the Abbey Drain, which is located near a former monastery in Paisley, Scotland. Experts have known about the well-preserved tunnel for hundreds of years, but until they fully explored it, they only knew where it started, not where it ended. Their efforts to uncover the stone archway led them to roughly 10 feet from the banks of the present-day Cart River, indicating that the tunnel once flowed into it. At the time the drain was built, the Cart River was both wider and shallower than it is now, which explains why the structure stopped short of it. It took the team around 8 weeks to fully excavate the 328-foot tunnel before they once again began covering it up. Seems kind of pointless, doesn't it? Well, the information gleaned from the dig stands to teach experts more about the area's history, and it's possible that the Abbey Drain will someday be reopened as a visitor attraction. Around 6,500 people were lucky enough to visit the tunnel during the 2-month excavation, which revealed that the drain is in remarkable condition. In the words of dig leader Bob Will of Guard Archaeology, "We found more than I was expecting, and it is really exciting. We found the end of the drain and what was the boundary wall of the monastery. Often these types of drains are in rural areas, not urban ones, where there will have been pressure on the land above it. But considering the amount of buildings on that site over the centuries, the condition of the drain is quite incredible." Neolithic woodhenge. We have a Stonehenge, and now we have a woodhenge. Earlier this year, researchers announced the discovery of a wooden Neolithic structure in south-central Portugal's Évora district at the prehistoric site of Perdigoes. Measuring over 60 feet in diameter, the monument is located within a series of ditch enclosures. In an interview with the Portugal News, archaeologist Antonio Valera explained, a possible access to the interior of this structure is oriented toward the summer solstice, reinforcing its cosmological character. He further added that the discovery connects the so-called woodhenge to other known European Neolithic sites. Known as a ceremonial Neolithic construction, this type of structure was only known in Central Europe and the British Isles, until it was confirmed here. The remains now consist of the structure's surviving foundation. Woodhenge was found after 23 years of excavations at the site, which consists of ruins spanning from the Middle Neolithic, around 3,400 BC, to 2000 BC during the Bronze Age. Artificial Neolithic islands. A study released last year found that Neolithic people created hundreds of artificial islands called crannogs off the Scottish coast around 5,600 years ago. Researchers, some of whom published their findings in the journal Antiquity, had known about the crannogs for decades. But until recently, they believed that the islands, which were constructed from boulders, clay, and wood, dated back to around 2,800 years ago during the Iron Age. As it turns out, they are several millennia older than that, and the cranog likely marked special locations for those who built them, as evidenced by the discovery of pottery fragments found in and around the sites. During the 1980s, experts began receiving clues about the island's true age, and the discoveries kept coming, prompting UK archaeologists Duncan Garrow and Fraser Sturt to take a comprehensive look in 2016 and 2017. For the study, they examined cranogs in 3 lakes. Radiocarbon dating showed that 4 of the cranogs were built between 3,640 and 3,360 BC, long before researchers previously thought. One thing that is conspicuously lacking from the island so far are Neolithic structures. Archaeologists hope that some will turn up during future excavations. Massive structure hidden in plain sight. In mid-2016, thanks to satellite and drone technology, researchers found a massive structure buried in the sands of the world-famous Petra ruins in Jordan. Roughly the size of an Olympic swimming pool, the building was found literally hidden in plain sight, just south of the city center, and archaeologists have missed this for 150-200 years, said researcher Sarah Parcak of the University of Alabama, Birmingham. Parcak further explained that despite the structure's confirmed presence, its use remains a mystery for now. "We know it's large, it's significant, it's important," she said. "It probably would have had some kind of public function. Could it be used for religious purposes? Was it some sort of public administrative structure? I wish I knew." Parcak, who's known as a modern-day Indiana Jones, is a space archaeologist who finds hidden and otherwise undetected structures by analyzing space and aerial imagery. Also space as in empty space and voids, not outer space. She admitted that she initially dismissed the building buried at Petra, but it managed not to slip under the radar thanks to her colleague Christopher Tuttle, who identified foundations and column bases. This comes as good news, especially to Parcak, who stated that no other building like it has been found at the site. Pottery fragments indicate that the structure may be as much as 2,150 years old. Golden cannonball fossil. While out on one of his regularly scheduled fossil hunting missions with his father in early 2019, along Sandsend Beach in Whitby, England, a medical student named Aaron Smith discovered a large, shiny rock resembling a cannonball. The 22-year-old examined the object and broke it open. Turns out it was a fossilized 185-million-year-old Eleganticeras, an ammonite that went extinct around the same time as the dinosaurs. Smith reported that he found the object in a layer of rock dating back to the lower Jurassic period. The limestone fossil is covered in something called iron pyrite, a material known more commonly as fool's gold. When polished, the outside of these types of fossils gain a goldish hue, hence the substance's informal name. In a social media post revealing the fascinating find, Smith expressed his surprise at how such old fossils are still out there, waiting to be found, adding that a cannonball fossil is only discovered once every few years. But this is apparently one of several ammonite fossils that the young man and his father have found over the years. They've amassed quite the collection, as a video Smith posted on social media shows, along with numerous other types of fossils, but people love the cannonball fossils the most. In Smith's words, they love them much more than our marine reptile fossils in many cases, which is quite annoying because the marine reptiles are my favorite. Hammerheaded bat. In 2018, images surfaced online of a seemingly humongous bat with a distinctive, strangely shaped head, leading internet users the world over to wonder if it was even a real creature in the first place. The question became so pervasive, it even gained the attention of Snopes and earned a place in the fact-checking site's official archives. The answer is yes. The animal in question is a megabat called the hammerheaded bat. It is widely distributed throughout equatorial Africa and is a type of fruit bat that loves eating bananas, figs, and mangoes. The hammerheaded bat is the largest African bat species, with a wingspan of over 3 feet. Males are noticeably larger than females, a phenomenon known as sexual dimorphism in the animal kingdom, and they use their gigantic noses to make honking sounds to attract females. In Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, it's considered more of a pest since it eats crops and makes so much noise. The frightening thing about this bat is that it can kill you. It is one of 3 species of African fruit bat thought to be asymptomatically infected with the Ebola virus. Yikes! Definitely don't go and try to cuddle it if you see one. More than half of the outbreaks of Ebola Zaire, the deadliest strain of the Ebola virus, occur in the DRC and the surrounding areas of the Congo jungle. Scientists know quite a bit about the virus, but it is still quite the mystery of where it hangs out when not infecting people and how humans get it. Virologist Vincent Munster says we know everything about its replication cycle, but freaking nothing about where it comes from and how it causes outbreaks. He is part of a team catching these hammerhead bats in the Congo, the hotspot for the virus, and these fruit bats seem to be the reservoir of the Ebola virus. It doesn't harm them, and the virus is able to lay in wait until someone comes along and eats them, or somehow they are able to infect a primate, which then will also die. Ebola is the biggest threat to gorillas apart from poaching, but no one knows how it gets from fruit bats to primates. But the hammer-headed bat itself is very important to the ecosystem and is not trying to come and get you. A new mosasaur. While this big guy hasn't been around for a very long time, we didn't know that it ever existed until recently, so it is new to us. Gavialimaimus almagribensis is a new genus and species of mosasaur or marine reptile that scientists discovered in Morocco, in a phosphate mine known for its abundance of mosasaur fossils and occasionally a dinosaur or two. The creature, which is described in a recently published study in the Journal of Systematic Paleontology, existed between 72 and 66 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. Its skull measures over 3 feet long. Like modern-day gharials, a type of crocodilian, the species had a long, narrow snout and interlocking teeth. Its long snout indicates that it was adapted to eating a certain type of prey, bony, fast-swimming fish. Lead study author Katie Strong says that this discovery of this new creature adds a layer of clarity to a diverse picture seemingly overcrowded with mega predators all competing for food, space, and resources. The long snout shows that it ate something specific within the ecosystem, which is how so many large predators were able to survive at the same time. Everybody ate one specific thing. Evidence suggests that all mosasaurs were specialized in some way when it came to hunting specific prey. In some cases, including that of the newly discovered G. almagribensis, these adaptive features were more prominent. Not all of the adaptations are this dramatic, but overall they were all slightly different. Joker spider. Earlier this year, researchers discovered a new velvet spider species in Iran. They took one look and said it reminded them of the face paint of the Joker from the iconic Batman series. Spider researchers Ali Reza Zamani and Yuri Marusik described the Joker spider in a recently published paper in the journal Arthropoda Selecta. The Joker spider constitutes the first velvet arachnid species ever spotted outside the Mediterranean, according to Rachel Funnell of IFL Science, as most velvet spiders are found in Eurasia and parts of Africa. After seeing a photo of L. phoenixi on social media, Zamini set out on a quest to find a specimen for himself. He captured one in 2016, but lost it on his way back to the lab. Whoops, wonder where he lost it. An online plea to other specialists urging them to collect any specimens they possibly could led to the accumulation of examples of both the species in question as well as numerous other undiscovered velvet spiders from Iran's Alborz province. Only 2 male L. phoenixi specimens have been found so far. The cryptic female remains undiscovered, Zamani told the Daily Mail. Spiders of the Laridia genus generally live underground, with males emerging from their burrows for a 3-week period between October and November annually, meaning it could prove difficult for experts to find female specimens. Could it happen? Of course. It just might take some time and patience. But first, want to say a big thank you to Toxin9701 and Don't Mind Me for subscribing and supporting this channel. Some people have told us that YouTube has unsubscribed them, so if you are new here or a returning subscriber, be sure to check that subscribe button. An early sea creature. Last year, a team led by Virginia Tech paleontologist Shuhai Qiao formally described Ylingia speciformis, the first known species to roam the sea floor and to have a segmented body. Additionally, it was the first creature to have identifiable front and back ends to its body and symmetrical left and right sides, features that nearly all of today's animals possess, but back in the day, things were different. A 550 million-year-old fossil capturing the prehistoric species movement was found in China's Yangtze Gorges region. Qiao and his team used the fossil in their study, noting that the creature made the tracks immediately before it died. It was just moving around and it died suddenly, he explained in a Nature interview. Despite the species being formally described, there are things about it that researchers admittedly don't know, including what category of life it belonged to, with some speculating that it was in the same group as earthworms. Just the same, the study helped experts learn important new things about evolution. For one, Y. speciformis constitutes the earliest known evidence of certain evolutionary traits that scientists previously thought may have first appeared later on in history. The trail it left behind in the fossil suggests that it may have been capable of burrowing, and therefore may have been one of the first animals that had legs. Still, it remains quite the enigma. Wakanda fish. In mid-2019, scuba divers discovered a new fish species, which they named Cerulabris wakanda, after the fictional kingdom in Marvel's Black Panther movie, according to New Scientist. The fish, measuring just 2.4 inches long, has dark purple fins and a yellow head. It was discovered nearly 200 feet below the water's surface, among the coral reefs east of Zanzibar, Tanzania. Much like the fictional place the species is named after, the seemingly elusive Wakanda fish was found in the isolated and unexplored reefs that are too deep to access via conventional diving methods. Researchers were required to use special equipment to reach the depths at which the species lives. DNA analysis confirmed that the newly discovered fish is genetically unique. Unfortunately, the recent findings also debunk the previously held theory that reefs located within the twilight zone depths protect wildlife from the effects of humans. Sadly, the Wakanda fish and its plant and animal companions are no safer than any other creatures from our destructive activities. Number 5. Dragon snakeheads. In a recent rare discovery, scientists have identified a new family of fish called dragon snakeheads, which live in the underground waters of the Western Ghats, a biodiversity hotspot in southern India. Known as living fossils, these creatures are thought to have existed for at least 100 million years, since they diverged from their closest relative. Despite their age, the fish flew under the scientific community's radar until last year. But how? The reason people seldom spot dragon snakeheads is because they typically only surface when heavy rains cause flooding. Ichthyologist Ralph Britz, the leader and author of a study on the fish, explained in a National Geographic interview that it's uncommon to discover a new taxonomic family, given their tendency to be expansive and diverse. To give you an idea, he cited the Hominidae family, which includes us, humans, as well as an array of other primates, including orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees. The newly discovered fish family, which goes by the scientific name Enigmacana, consists of two known species. One of them, a Gollum, or the Gollum snakehead, is named after, of course, the Lord of the Rings character. These strange-looking fish have long, eel-like bodies, and in the words of Smithsonian ichthyologist David Johnson, a whole series of primitive characteristics. Dragon snakeheads are less specialized than snakehead fish outside the Enigmacana family, with fewer ribs and a smaller swim bladder. They also lack a body part that enables other fish to breathe air, called a suprabranchial organ. Unlike most subterranean fish, which are usually white and eyeless, dragon snakeheads have eyes and pigmentation. The new discovery ironically points to some yet unanswered questions about living fossil species, including why they possess features that other creatures have lost over time, and why they have evolved so little, unlike some of their relatives. A millipede. When Tess Moody, a staff member at Caw Caw Interpretive Center in Ravenel, South Carolina, noticed a millipede specimen that she couldn't identify in 2018, she photographed it and took to the internet for help. Entomologists were also stumped, prompting Dr. Jackson Means of Virginia Tech to contact Moody, suggesting that the creature represented an unknown species. The pair returned to Caw Caw numerous times in search of another specimen, but did not find one until June of this year. Only then were they able to confirm that the millipede in question was of an unidentified species. In a recent interview with the Post and Courier, Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission Coordinator Keith McCullough elaborated on the excitement of Moody's find, stating it is incredibly rare to discover a new species in this thoroughly explored region. Moody was given naming rights to the millipede, which is a member of the Pluraloma genus. Her decision on what to call the creature has yet to be announced. What would you call a new insect? Would you name it after yourself or where you're from? Let me know in the comments below. A new wasp species. Scott Egan, an evolutionary biologist and associate professor of biosciences at Rice University, discovered a new gall wasp species that may be a parasite of a parasite. He found the creature near his lab in the Houston, Texas area and first hatched the species in 2014. Egan specializes in the study of gall wasps, which emit biochemicals that program live oak trees to produce a tumor-like growth called a gall, which protects their eggs and feeds their larvae. The species in question, Alarhoga scalifolia, is one of 4 newly discovered Alarhoga species that Egan and his colleagues describe in a recent study published in the journal Insect Systematics and Diversity. A. gallifolia lays its eggs in the galls of other wasps. They're using the gall as a resource, said Egan, and we're still not certain how, but I think they're attacking herbivorous caterpillars that are feeding on the gall tissue, and the wasp larvae are eating those caterpillars after they hatch. The newly identified species is one of just a handful of Alarhoga species that have ever been found in the U.S. Meanwhile, over 50 such species have been identified in Mexico and Central America. Egan's discovery of A. gallifolia was part of an ongoing objective to study the enemies of another gall wasp species. Nearly every day, those involved in the operation collect, study, and catalog the contents of thousands of galls. According to Egan, more research is necessary to determine the exact nature of the new species' activities within galls. That is one very specific research study right there. African wading mice. African wading mice are swamp and river-dwelling rodents found in the tropical forests of East Africa that are much larger than average mice. Equipped with long feet and whiskers, they hunt for prey in the shallow waters of their habitat. Basically, they are mice that crawl around in the water. When African wading mice were first discovered, they were classified as one species called Colomis goslingi, consisting of 2 subspecies. But this initial assessment was wrong, according to a new study published in the Zoological Journal of the Linnean Society, which identifies 4 separate species of African wading mice. These little guys are important to the ecosystem, so even if you don't like mice, there are people out there who do care a lot about them. In an interview with New Scientist, biologist Tom Giarla explained that the C. goslingi species was known all the way from Liberia to Kenya, which is an insanely wide distribution for a really small animal. Giarla was part of an international team of researchers who confirmed their suspicions that there are more species of African wading mice than originally thought. Based on DNA analysis, they argue that the previously identified C. goslingi subspecies is its own species, which they call C. einsteintrauti. The team also identified 2 other species, C. wologizi, named after the Wologizi Mountains of Liberia, and C. lumumbai, named in honor of the first Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Patrice Lumumba. All 4 species share common characteristics, such as kangaroo-like feet, waterproof fur, and large brains. In considering these similarities, it's understandable that it took scientists as long as it did for them to confirm that there is more than one African wading mouse species. But time is of the essence when it comes to describing new species, especially in East Africa, where habitat destruction and climate change severely threaten wildlife, according to researcher Julian Kurbis Peterhans, who spoke with ZME Science. In fact, it is this exact fear that prompted the study in the first place. Scientists want to study and identify the animals that are there before they are gone for good. Two-fingered dinosaur. Paleontologists working in Mongolia recently discovered the fossilized remains of a previously unknown oviraptorosaur genus and species. Officially named Oxoko avarson, the long-extinct omnivorous dinosaur roamed the Earth approximately 68 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. Researchers described the fascinating find in a paper published in the online journal Royal Society Open Science. The newly unearthed specimen measured 2 meters long and had a blunt, toothless beak. Each of its short, feathery arms were equipped with 2 fierce talons, unlike its oviraptorosaur relatives, who had 3 functioning fingers. This distinction indicates that oviraptorosaurs evolved to adapt to their circumstances and surroundings. The remarkably well-preserved fossils provided the first evidence of digit loss in the 3-fingered family of dinosaurs known as oviraptors, explained study author and University of Edinburgh paleontologist Gregory Funston. The discovery that oviraptorosaurs could evolve forelimb adaptations suggests that the group could alter their diets and lifestyles and enable them to diversify and multiply. In addition to the fossilized adult specimen, the researchers found 4 young Oxoco-avarsan dinosaurs in a nest together, offering insight into the species' social behavior. Based on these findings, it is evident that juveniles wandered together. This, coupled with the discoveries presenting researchers with the first opportunity to study the evolution of them, make the study especially remarkable. Thanks for watching! Which creature was your favorite? Would you like to learn about more recently discovered species? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're at it, be sure to subscribe! See you next time!